Welcome to Into the Woods. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. If you want to join in the conversation, be sure to follow our socials. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Michael. How are you, Mick?
Good, thank you.
It's good to
Good.
see you. It's good to see that you haven't gone off and started your own podcast. The other day, you're calling yourself the star of the show.
Well, in that I was the only one represented on the show. Yes, that makes me a star. And you were the producer of the day, and you weren't very good at producing. I had the freaking sun in my eyes. I had no drink. My chair was uncomfortable. This is the type of thing the producers do for the stars.
So for our listeners, they have no idea what you're talking about right
Oh,
now.
that's right. We haven't introduced.
So in this episode, Michael, this Michael is having a one-on-one interview with Mick McGuane. Mick
Yes.
v Mick one-on-one. We've been talking to Mick McGuane for a while, trying to get him on. Originally, we kind of wanted a standalone episode that's similar to what we did with Leon, for maybe an hour or something if we were lucky enough. Unfortunately, Mick, he had other commitments that night, so we were only able to get
Yeah.
20 minutes with
But
him.
still very generous with
Very
his time.
generous of him, but because we weren't able to get to all the questions that we wanted, I thought,
Mm.
why not just unleash Mick just one on
Unleash
one?
him. Yes.
Because you're the one that loves Mick McGuane. He's one of your all-time favorites. I was never lucky enough to see him play. So I thought, yeah, just I'll sit back and let you do your thing. He was still talking about my podcast with Andreas a few weeks ago, so I thought I'd give him this one. And in all fairness, as Mike was saying, I was here for it. I had to set up everything and press the buttons because old man over here couldn't do it. But it was very good. You asked all the right questions.
Yeah, as I said, there was more I would have liked to have asked, but 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't have the opportunity. But he's fantastic footy brain.
Oh, he was
Some,
amazing. The chat with him, he was the way he answered your questions. He was sensational.
but
I
yeah,
wish we had 2 hours with him.
exactly. So some of these great insights into guys like Houston and McGuinness.
Mm.
We talked about his history, his coaching, and how he sees the Collingwood side at the moment, and he had
Mm.
some great
And the
insights.
big
So
one, his son. He had a
yes, we talked about his
very
son.
interesting chat about Tom McGuane, who's going to join us via the father son later in the
So
year.
yeah. Well,
But
I've spoken about Mick McGuane a fair bit in the past, but I just want to reiterate for those people who weren't old enough to see him, he was a great player.
yeah.
So if Tom's anywhere near as good, watch out
Mhm.
because he's right up there. Like think Swan, think side bottom. He was that good. He only played 152 games. He had a lot of issues with groin issues and so forth. So I'd robbed him off a lot of matches.
Mhm.
But no, he is a really great player.
No, you did a great job, Nick. I don't normally give you compliments
No,
and sing your
you
praises,
never
but
give me compliments, and nor do you ever sing my
but
praises.
you did really well. You did really well, and he was
Don't,
fantastic.
don't really need your approval, but it's nice to hear. But
He was great, and we really appreciate him coming on. That's coming up later in the episode. I think segment two is
yeah.
so right after hot topics.
I got off
We're gonna play it.
got off to a bit of a rocky start,
Yes,
but
the listeners were here, Dad. It was hilarious. So I was sitting in the back just watching. I couldn't actually hear Mick McGuane. I could hear everything that Mike was saying, but not Mick McGuane. So I
don't,
kind of listened back later. But at the time, I saw you. You were just, you were scrambling. Oh, you looked a little bit caught off
don't,
guard.
well, let me just say a couple of things.
I
Don't,
think the word idiot was thrown around.
don't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. Because I thought there was this one thing I read, I thought, Jesus, that's amazing. So I kind of
Opened with it. That was the first question.
read it a second time, and then double checked before the interview began. And that's what it said. And yeah, but there you go. And Dermot here. So before the podcast, he's got all this paraphernalia on the desk. And I said, can we clear this out? I want room for my notes and so forth. And Dermot says, that's okay, you're just nervous. Well, I'm not nervous at all.
You
And
looked a little nervous.
and then a few minutes later, we're sitting there waiting for Mick to call in, and we're just sitting there, and Dermot says to me, "You nervous?" Well, no, but if you keep on asking me if I'm nervous, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'll eventually get nervous. So as a result, when it started, I was a bit on edge. Thank you, Dermot.
No, you're welcome.
Never
Uh,
become a psychiatrist.
Yes, very good. We had a big episode today. So not only the Mick McGuANE interview, where obviously it's our last episode before the start of the season. So we're going to sort of do a bit of a mini review of the preseason game against the Tigers a few nights ago. But we're also going to look forward and have our big season preview. Our season previews are very famous. We've only done one so far, so this is the second time I've done it. But as we remember, our little bet last year, I said Richmond will finish bottom of the ladder and will not
Oh,
win more than 3 games. And they'll win at least 10.
no,
Meh,
I've
meh,
got.
meh, meh, meh.
Can I quickly jump in for prediction? Oh,
When,
Richmond would not win more than 3 games this year. Having
yes,
seen them the
yes,
other day.
yes. Well, can I make a prediction? They won't. They'll only win one. That's my guess. They'll only win one game this
Mhm.
year.
Right.
I'm going to say probably West Coast of the G, but we'll talk about that later. It's not prediction time now, but huge episode. It's so big that we've had to drop I Got Vomit. That's how much we've got to talk about.
Mm, mm.
But before we get into all the hot topics for our YouTube viewers, we'll mention elephant in the room. I got this big scar here. You're probably wondering what this big thing on my head is. Yes, we're aware. I'm okay. Had a little bit of something cut out. Yeah, so.
They might have also nicked your brain in the
So yeah,
process,
very
I
good.
reckon.
3 stitches. 3 stitches. It looks like I've been in a fight. Look, you should see what the other guy looks like, buddy.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Um,
All
yeah.
right. Have you got anything to say before we get
Oh
into
no,
it all?
just your opening. Can we? I don't like JB. Can we get rid of JB from the opening little theme of the podcast?
JB.
Well, there's you got a segment of all the highlights, commentary, the highlights, and you got JB in there.
The Jamie Elliott,
Oh, was it? I don't know what he's saying. Yeah, probably Jamie Allen.
the guy after the sun.
Replace him with Jared Waitley's, the Grim Reaper one. They've closed like the Grim Reaper.
No, we've already got Jared Waitley in
Yeah, no,
the
he does the other one. He does the goey moment, but yeah,
no,
you
the opener's good. We're not changing the opener.
I don't like JB.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't care. All right. Anyway, let's get into all the hot topics. All right. So we played the Tigers the other night. How much did we win by? About 80, 90? I didn't even look at the final scores. We smashed them, didn't we? 80 points, I'd say. Pretty much a full squad for us, other than the only 2 players that weren't playing that I think could be there in opening round. Braden Maynard. Basically, I think Jordan Roughhead said that he's 100% going to play. So Maynard's one. The goey touch and go. But other than those guys, that's about all that was missing. What are you giggling about?
I'm just wondering when I can talk because during the break, Dermot's told me not to interrupt him at all, and I can only talk when he finishes talking.
Okay, that's not what I said. Okay, for our listener, last week, so I've got the notes here, right? I've got
Dermot forgot to say something, and apparently it was my fault.
last week I had my notes here, and Michael interrupted to talk about Perryman, even though he was on my
But
list.
this is supposed to be a natural back and forth
So,
discussion.
yes,
But
but
now
basically,
it's very structured.
because you don't.
He's giving me a script.
No, that's your script. Shut up. Um, last week you just interrupted, and because of that, I completely forgot to mention Josh Dacos in his new role. So I said, just let me finish all the dot points, and then if
Oh,
I left anything out, then you can chuck it at the end.
by the way, we've had a lot of calls about the poster behind us, so don't let me forget. I'll take you through it later on.
Lots of calls.
Yep.
Who's calling you?
People are ringing through.
Yes, okay. All right, so yeah, as I was saying, Geordie and Bruzzy pretty much the only 2 missing from that team that played the Tigers, so almost full strength. And look, it's pre-season. We don't want to get too carried away, do we? Especially when we're playing one of the weakest teams probably we've ever seen.
Right.
But we're going to get carried away because I think we're going to win the flag after that.
I think Jared Waitley got. Sorry,
Mm.
Jared Waitley got a bit nervous now whenever I talk.
Oh, I just said don't.
Yeah, I think Jared Waitley, who a lot of the listeners would have heard his comments saying the pies look very slick, and yeah, I think he got a little bit carried away given the opposition. But anyway, keep on going.
Well, we'll go through a few of the things that excited me, and I'll get your opinion on them.
Yep.
And if I
Okay.
forget anything at the end, you feel free to jump in,
Right.
Mick. All right, you know what? I was going to start with the main guy, but I won't now. I'm going to start with the thing that I forgot to mention last week. That is Josh Dacos to halfback. I've been talking about it since late last year when we made the move. I've been a huge
So the
supporter.
pictures from 1974, and what's your okay? Keep on, just joking. Keep on going.
You know the people that listen to the audio of this can't see the picture
Oh, they
on
can
the
just
back.
just visualize the picture behind us. Can't keep on going.
Right, so Josh Dacos, half-back flank, looks fucking unreal. He looks unreal. So good that I'm opening with Josh Dacos instead of Nick Dacos. How rare is
Really?
that? He looks unbelievable. Him and the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Houston. Dan
Oh, Dan
Houston.
Houston's an
Those two off half-back, that is the best combination in the competition without a doubt.
It does look good at this early stage.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like, we are so blessed to get Dan Houston. He's going to
Mm,
make all the difference, isn't he? He's
mm.
going to.
Yeah, of course, opposition coaches will respond to this, but even if they respond and they're successful in quelling Dacos or Houston or both, they're still giving something away, aren't they? We're forcing them to do something. So even if it doesn't work out every week, their side's still being compromised to an extent.
Well, the way I look at it is, so I would like to say if Nick Dacos, for example, is getting tagged in the midfield,
Mm,
switch them around. Houston midfield, Nick Dacos halfback, or the other way around. If Houston's getting tagged off halfback, put him in the midfield and chuck Nick at halfback. I
mm,
reckon those two. I know we talked in the interview with Mick McGuANE, which you'll hear later. He does mention Houston in the midfield and that he doesn't necessarily like that.
mm.
Um, who am I to disagree with the great Mick McGuANE? But I kind of disagree with that. I would like to see it. If that happens. So we've got so much flexibility with these guys, Nick, Josh, and Houston, that you can swap them around if
Yeah.
they're getting clamped out. So
Yeah, well, that's what McRae's always talked about, versatility
mm,
in his players. So, yeah, keep
yeah,
on
it's
going.
exciting. And then so we get Dan Houston, and I don't want to kick a club while they're down, and I don't want to make fun of a kid that's just done his ACL. It's not good. It's awful. But Carlton, when they're in a premiership window, invested in the draft and getting Jagger Smith, who was a sensational player, by the way. He's great and ready-made. So he could have made a difference in year one. 100% he could have. Not to the extent that Dan Houston was gonna do,
Mm.
but like still, they chose this kid over Houston when they're in a premiership window. He goes down with an ACL, which is shocking. It's awful. Really bad for my fantasy and Supercoach teams as well. But what do you reckon they're thinking watching Dan Houston run around at their home ground, dominating, slotting goals from 50?
Mm.
Meanwhile, their young kid, who they invested all that time in, is out for the year. Like they're going to be kicking themselves.
Yeah, well, a bit of a spoiler alert. I don't have them in the premiership window this year.
Is that really a
Uh,
spoiler? All you do is bag them.
so I think in a warp type of a way, they've done the right thing by selecting a young guy rather than Houston, because
So,
I don't think Houston's going to help them win the premiership.
I,
The young guy might in a couple of years' time. Well, more than a couple of years' time, I reckon. I think they're a fair way off it.
I don't think I strongly disagree. Like this isn't our predictions right now, but we will just quickly touch on Carlton. Is you got Cripps, you got Walsh, you got Chera in the middle.
Yeah,
You you
but
got
Walsh
the
and
Cone.
Walsh and Chera don't play.
Uh,
They don't play.
Walsh is a bit of worry.
They don't play
Chera's looking
football.
really sharp this
Oh,
preseason.
until he does his hemi again.
Yeah, he's been overseas. He's gone. He's done to the Goey and gone over.
Yeah.
He could be okay, but then you got Kerno, Mackay, De Koning. You got Weeder in down back. Like they're a good team, Michael.
But
We hate them, but they're a good
no,
team.
no, they're top six on paper. They're named very good.
Yeah, imagine if
Very,
you chucked Houston in that.
but their bottom six aren't very good. They're missing a key back. They're
I
missing
don't think they're
outside.
missing a key back. They got better key backs than what we do.
Who have they got? They've got
Wiedering,
Yeah, Wiedering. Yeah,
McGovern, who's done his hamstring actually. I think.
Another guy who doesn't play. These guys don't play football.
All right. Anyway, this isn't the Calder podcast. We'll
Anyway,
keep on
yes,
going.
keep on going.
Let's talk about a guy by the name of Nick Dacos.
Let's not. Okay, I should have said this at the start of the year. Can we not turn this into a Nick Dacos podcast like it was last year?
Michael, when the guy comes out and he gets 32 disposals in 2.5 quarters and has the ball on a fucking string, we will make it the Nick
Okay.
Dacos show.
All right, let's just have.
We will make it the Nick Dacos
We'll
show.
just default. We'll like every week we'll say Dacos is great because he is, and then we'll move on. Okay, so Dacos is great. What's your next point?
Andrew Gaze said the other day that he believes that Nick Dacos will be the greatest player of all time. He says, no one has ever done what Nick has done in his first 3 seasons. This is season number 4. The guy should have 2 Brownlows. If it wasn't for an injury and the umpires, I was about to say something very inappropriate. The umpires loving Patrick Cripps, then Dacos would be a 2-time Brownlow medalist after 3 seasons.
What was Jaden Stevenson's first couple of years like? They were pretty good. Rising star, then another 20 odd goals in the second year.
I know this is going to sound ridiculous because he's just been the best player in the comp for a couple of years now, but is he going to go to another level this year?
Well, I think, and I don't know if I said it in last week's podcast, if he stays injury free, and he's always been good in that respect, obviously the broken leg aside,
Mm.
but as far as soft tissues goes, he's been pretty good thus far. So if he can stay fit, and if a couple of key players around him can stay in the park, like a Perryman, other midfielders, basically, if he's got a bit of protection in the midfield, and we can play him in his in the best role for him, which is kind of midfielder, but kind of outside, not the hit two guy. I think he's going to slaughter the opposition this year.
Mm.
I don't think anybody can stop him.
No, no, he can't be
Yeah,
stopped.
because his second efforts, the way he gets to contests, nobody can keep up with him.
No, and that's the thing. If he gets tagged, he may not get the 35 disposals.
Oh no.
But you know what? He's still going to get it 25 times.
Yes.
And you got Nick Dacos getting it 25 times. That's better than anyone in the competition getting it 40
But
times.
it's what it also does is as I was saying before about the halfback flankers,
Mm,
it compromises the opposition if they have to put work into these
mm,
guys.
mm.
They haven't got their favoured structure. So
And a guy that you just mentioned is going to be huge for him. I'm going to skip a little bit forward. Perryman. Let's just mention them together because he didn't star Perryman, but I have to scroll down a bit. But he's playing pure midfield, game high 10 tackles. So he's just a
yeah.
contested base. He kicked a nice goal. He's pure midfield. Like I mean, he's not wing, he's not half back like we were kind of predicting. He's bang smack in the midfield and he's protecting Nick Dacos, and that is going to help him.
Mm.
He's
Yep.
gonna
Yep.
when De Go is fit and you got those two in there, Perryman. You got Kane Cord's bag in his 900 a year, but he he could be the difference maker this year, someone like a Perryman. And if we win the flag, and he's not going to get talked about, it's going to be people are going to be like Dan Houston, Tim Membry, all these guys.
Mm.
But this guy, he's going to play such a crucial role for us this year. It's exciting, and I don't know, I don't know what you think about him, but
Oh,
I,
look, I haven't seen a lot, but yeah, he's tackled in the first couple of games. He has tackled really well.
he's a big
Yeah,
body,
he's a
and
big body. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, you can't take much from his first couple of games, but it does look good.
he looks really
Yeah.
good, and I don't know, like. I'm excited by these recruits, but we'll move forward. So we'll stick to the half back line. So we talked about Josh and we talked about Dan Houston. Quainer looks good again.
I've got Quain today.
Yeah.
I got Quainor, nice signs marking. His contested marking came back. He was all at his
Yeah,
best.
he's into that market. Yeah.
He's always even contested marking.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy at 5'10", whatever he is, he can take contested marks.
Mm.
And he lost that last year. And I think he took about four good marks the other day. So I think
Mm.
early signs are good that he
Mm.
might return to
He's
his.
slimmed down. He looks like he's got his speed back. He's taken the game on. He's
Yeah, but his Instagram account has taken a hit apparently. So
yes.
with the buff shots. Yeah.
So that's exciting. But you know who else? So when I saw the teams released and I looked at the bench, I'm trying to say, oh, who's not going to play? So they put those extended benches in. There was four guys that sat on the bench, not doing anything for the first half.
Yeah, they seem to sit on the bench a bit too long.
No, they want to give it a good guy.
I
But
know they want to give them a good hit out, but I would have liked to have seen Ed Allen on
yeah,
earlier.
we'll talk about Ed Allen in a
Yeah.
second. But who I want to talk about is a guy that I thought was guaranteed not to play. I saw him on the bench and I thought he's going to be one of the four that doesn't come on until the second half. He started and I was shocked. And I was a little bit pissed off because I'm talking about Oleg Markov.
Yes. Yeah.
He started over Will Parker.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I thought, what is happening? Like, I know you and I didn't think Oleg was going to play much of a part this year. Andres, who we had on a few weeks ago, also had the same
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, most
Well,
Collingwood
we
supporters
tried to get
did.
rid of him over the summer.
Yeah,
We tried to chuck him
but
off to another club.
well, no, we delisted him and redrafted him. Yeah,
No,
we didn't try to trade him.
no, we delisted him in the hope that another side would pick him up and pay his contract.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think
Well, that's what was reported at the
I
time.
don't think that was
So
necessarily.
I'm lying.
I think that you're getting a bit confused.
What I do, listeners, I make a fortune out of going around lying about Oleg Markov.
Yeah.
It's really lucrative. I'm a criminal genius. What was reported at the time, Dermot? He's presently under contract. Don't look out the window. He's just saying. Okay, just look. Okay, so Oleg, as I understood it, and as was reported late last year, he was under contract to the Pies. The Pies didn't want him anymore. So they kind of delisted him in the hope that another club would pick him up and pay that contract. And when that didn't happen, we were forced to bring him back because he was contracted. That's what I understand.
I think we're
Anyway,
just trying to free up a
but
spot on the senior list, and we always committed to getting him and Ash Johnson back if they were available.
but
But
my
no, 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 hold on, hold on. I'm not finished. I'm not finished talking about my.
yeah, no, but I've got him on my notes as well.
Just hold on. So the thing about Markov is when I saw that he was playing, I was angry. I was upset. I was like, how is this guy possibly ahead of Will Parker?
You're very temperamental, aren't you?
But, but
He
he
played
was
well.
awesome.
He played well.
He looked back to the 2023 Markov.
Yeah, he's cleared his social calendar for the
Well,
year. He's going to commit to playing for the Pies.
maybe that was a kick up the backside that he needed. Getting delisted, you're out of here, mate. Only for a couple of weeks. He probably thought, fuck,
Yeah.
like my career is. I think he was too comfortable after the 23 flag, and
Oh, he was laying down. He was that comfortable.
but
Yeah,
I
he had
was
a doona over
pumped.
him.
Now my fear my we'll talk about it later, but I don't think he's going to be a regular. He could force his way in. I don't think he's going to be a
Could
regular.
be.
We'll talk about that
Well,
later. But what do you think about Markov?
well, I was amazed also to see him out there. I thought, okay, the first half, this will probably be the side that they ideally want to go into round zero. And I saw Markov and I was flabbergasted. So obviously, I think they're going to play him in the first game.
Yeah.
And if he plays well, it's his spot to lose.
Maybe
Um,
I'll talk. I'm going to go a little bit in depth about the team later. I don't necessarily think that part's true, but we'll talk about that later. But yes, he was impressive. Let's talk about the triple M's. The triple M.
yep.
McStay, Myercheck, Membry. Fuck yes. I'm 30 years old and I have not seen a Collingwood forward line with this many good key forwards ever. Like the last, I was thinking about it. The Tarrant Rocker combo was the last great combo I saw, but there was only two of them. In 2002, Fraser played as a third tall actually and kicked about 30 something goals. McKee was our number one, so you could maybe make a case for that. But for three pure key forwards, you got these guys, Tim Membry, like all the talk's going to be about Dan Houston, but this guy is going to change everything for us. He's going to take all the pressure off Myercheck, and we know how good Myercheck is. We don't need to go on about him, other than the fact that I think he's going to have his best year because of these
You're
two.
not getting carried away, are you?
Oh, I'm getting a little bit carried away.
Okay, it
But
has only been practice matches.
the next guy, Dan McStay, he's the one I'm the most excited about. He looks unbelievable. His hands remind me of peak Travis Cloke. He doesn't drop them, and he kicks a hell of a lot better than
Mm,
Cloke.
mm.
But what really excited me is he, as I predicted late last year when we got Membry, he is our second ruck, and he actually looked good in the ruck. I know you've had
Yeah,
you haven't wanted it. You've wanted Cox
yeah.
in the team over Membry. I think now, I know
Uh,
Cox is injured, but hypothetically, if he wasn't, I think you need to now admit that I think Membry is ahead of Cox. Just say it. Say you're wrong. That Membry is ahead of Cox, please.
will it please you if I was to say I was wrong?
Yes.
Oh, look, I'll just, oh, yes, I was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's your opinion
No,
on it? Go on.
it reminds me the forward line reminds me of the 2018 forward line. Not in structure, but how they're trying to spread the load. So
Mm.
in 2018, I think you had all these guys kick more than 25 goals for the year. Myercheck, Cox, DeGoey, Stevenson, Hoskin Elliott, and Thomas. So you had a big spread of goal kickers. And so they all kicked over 25, I'm pretty sure, almost
Yeah, I
positive.
think you're right. Yeah.
This year, you can see the following all kicking over 25. Myercheck, Membry, McStay, Hill, Schultz, Elliott, DeGoey.
Yeah.
So that is a dangerous forward line in the fact that we're not putting all our eggs in one
Haven't even
basket.
mentioned McCurry. Probably not going to kick 25,
Yeah,
but he brings something different to that
I
forward line.
don't think he will kick more than 25. And just can I touch on him for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
McCreary, I don't think his role's not changing.
Nah,
He's going to
is it?
be he's going to be a 10 possession, eight tackle game guy with the odd goal here or there. That's going to be McCreary this year.
McCreary could be anything if played in the right role as a guy that, yeah, mainly plays half forward, but can push onto the wings, can go in the middle in spurts. And spoiler alert, in a few weeks, we've actually got David King coming on the show. He's agreed to come on, so thanks for that, Kingy. But I know that he has a very similar opinion on Bo McCreary. I've heard him talk about it for the last couple of years, so that's a question that we're going to put to him. I'm really interested to hear what he now thinks a couple of years on from the first time he mentioned this, because he thinks that he could. I think he called him our unicorn. he could just change everything for us. He's just so unique. But I don't think we're using him in the right role. But
What I hope is he just gets better at his current role.
he's not bad at his current
No,
role.
he's not bad, but I think even as a flanker, I still reckon there's more possessions in him. Instead of the eight, sometimes he only gets 8, 10 possessions. Instead of the 8, 10, I would like to see him getting 15.
Hmm.
15. So I said, and I don't think that's unreasonable for the role he's playing.
Yeah.
Imagine if he got it another 5 times a game, and McRae encourages the guy to run, just run, run, run. Imagine another 5 of those type of
Yeah.
possessions. Yeah, so I'd like to see him get better at his current role.
Yeah. I think the best way for him to get the extra possessions is just to move up the ground. But it's going to be, I reckon it's going to be hard in the role that he's
Yeah,
playing.
but if he becomes a midfielder, is he going to be an inside midfielder? And then as such, he's not going to have that run on the outside.
Yeah.
So you're robbing him of that. Yeah, he might get an extra 10 possessions, but are they going to be as
Well,
damaging
wing
as yeah, wing?
and
I'm
spurts in the
happy with.
midfield. Centre bounces where he can be explosive and break. But
Yeah,
anyway,
but
we'll move on. You just mentioned him in your forward group then, Bobby Hill. He just did Bobby Hill things. I don't even think he was that good, and he kicked 4 goals.
he had a good first quarter and
Yeah.
half or something.
Because
Yeah.
then one of those goals was when McStay handballed it to him about 10 minutes out directly in front. You
Mm,
know, when he took the mark, set
mm.
shot. What was that? I don't want to see that in the regular season. There's no point in risking that.
Oh,
Hopefully, they've just taken a piss and just.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, 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 exactly. That was an old, I've always hated that. You take a mark 10 meters out, just kick the
Yeah.
goal.
So that's the thing.
Don't risk it with a little handball that could be fumbled or pressure come to bear. Just kick the
I think
goal.
they kicked 10 goals between them. I
Mm,
think my check for Membry for McStay too. I think so between the
mm,
triple M's, there was 10 goals. Should have been 11. McStay should have had three if it wasn't
yeah.
for that. So,
And talking about goals close to the goal line, I remember Buckley on the couch a couple of years ago, just marveling at how many goals Myercheck gets within a metre of goal. And ever since he said that, I've been watching him. He gets more goals within a metre of the goal line than any person in history.
I don't know about, you know who I'm going to say?
And he got a couple more on the weekend. What's that?
Old goal square Jenkins, I used to call him. Josh Jenkins. He
Josh
used to do it a
Jenkins.
lot.
Yeah,
I
but
reckon way more than Myercheck. He loved the goal square.
yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think I might think Myercheck's now kicked a lot more goals than Josh Jenkins.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I reckon the most interesting thing to come out of this game in a way. So in the last game against the Lions and Suns, I think it was in part 5 and 6 against the Suns. Still side bottom. He started on the wing, but then he just dominated the CBAs. And I came on here and said, "Look, it was interesting. It's no chance of happening in a regular season. Like we got too many guys in there. It's not going to happen." And then he comes into this game, and this time he's in the same team as Nick Dacos. So last time Dacos played in a separate game to him, same team as Perryman, who was played in the separate team to him last time. Pendlebury was there. Sidebottom ended up with a game, yeah, a game high, 24 CBAs in this game against the
Mhm.
Tigers. The role is real. He isn't tagging, but you don't tag in preseason games unless you're the Hawks and you roll out Finn McGuinness in a preseason game against Nick Dacos a couple of years ago. Most of the time you don't tag. So is he in there to potentially tag in round zero? Or is this if he isn't, like
Who,
he
who,
played well. He looks really good. But I'm still not sure if that's the role for him unless he is tagging. Like,
I'm just thinking, who would he tag in the GWS
well,
midfield?
Tom Green's out, but I
Yeah,
think Tom Green was
Tom
too
Green,
big for
it
him
would have been,
anyway.
yeah, way too big.
So Callahan is probably the number one mid now. He's probably a bit too big.
Yeah,
Josh Kelly, possibly.
yeah, yeah. Josh Kelly's he's more wing though, isn't he? He doesn't
He's
play.
going to go on the inside without
Yeah.
Tom Green, I would have thought. So Callahan,
Caniglio?
he's just been banged up all preseason. I don't think he's going to have much of an
Mm.
influence anyway.
There's no obvious matchup as a tagger for him in their midfield.
Mm,
He could physically take. There's no Zach Merritt. There's no Viney. There's none of those guys he
But
can handle physically.
no, I agree, but I think the role's real. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. And
Oh yeah,
if the
yeah.
goalie's fit, and you got the goalie,
But
you got Nick Dacos, you got Pendlebury, you got Perryman, where does Steele fit into that? Because that should be our top four in the CBAs.
mm,
Like I've backflipped. Early in the preseason, I was saying he's a specialist sub in my opinion. Show his leadership on the bench for the first few quarters. Come on, flexible enough to play any position. could come on and tag if a midfield's getting away from us, could go behind the ball if we need an out back, go forward if we need an. I thought it was a great move, but he's looking so bloody good now that I've taken that back. Like he's in our best 22 without a doubt. But I'm just not sure if it's a CBA midfielder. I'm not sure about that. Like,
Oh, look, he might not be a
mm.
starter, but he will.
but I think he will.
There'll be a lot of people go through to midfield.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless he's tagging, and if he's tagging, I'm happy for him to be in there. But
Mm,
that's the other thing. A lot of clubs don't necessarily tag in the first, say, 6 weeks of the year. They sort of just let their own sort of like system do the talking,
mm,
and like the way that we're playing at the moment, there's 23 like that slingshot,
mm.
taking the game on through the corridor, just like all these risks. And I'm just not sure if the lockdown player is what we're going to want in the opening few rounds.
Yeah, but I think, given his experience, Sidebottom will never just be a lockdown tagger. He's still going to get a fair bit of his
Oh,
footy.
yeah, he's going to be
Yeah,
fantastic. But
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Can't he do that on a wing or a halfback flank or a half
mm,
forward flank? Like,
mm,
do we need him in there when we got so many good
mm.
midfielders? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what
Well,
happens. But
uh,
one of those. Oh, sorry.
so
Go.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Clearances. What was the have you got the clearance numbers there?
No.
Because I don't, just having listened to the commentators and watched the game, I don't know if there was a huge difference in the clearances. If you looked at the scores where we won by 80 something points, you'd think we would have killed them in the clearance. I don't think
The screenshots weren't actually that different. We just
no,
kicked so well.
exactly. Whatever my point. We were very efficient going forward. So could that be masking a problem?
Nah.
Wallpapering over a problem?
We didn't give a shit. We were just going out. We were in
Yeah, I
second
know.
gear. We're just rolling around.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's practice game, but
Practice game.
just yeah, there you go.
But also maybe that is us. Maybe we're going to be efficient in front of goal this year because Membry, beautiful kick. McStay, beautiful
It's a
kick.
pity we wasted our good kicking on a practice game because I don't know if that's going to be a trend.
Maybe not. Okay, so the one criticism from this game I want to talk about, and you kind of mentioned him before. So I don't want any jokes from you here. I love Will
I
Hoskin
don't
Elliott.
joke.
I love Will Hoskin Elliott.
Oh,
He's a great servant of the
okay.
club. He is a great Premiership hero, flexible, can play any position on the ground. I love him. I don't want to bag him. I'm not bagging him.
Well, you're about to
No,
because
no, I'm actually
you've obviously because you've preempted it with all this
I'm
praise.
not
So
bagging him because he didn't.
just be have a
No,
backbone and bag
no,
him.
because he didn't play a bad game. He didn't play a bad game, so I'm not actually going to bag him. But everybody knows what a big fan I am of Ed Allen. All right. I'm a huge Ed Allen fan. And he came on later in the game, about halfway through the third quarter, which to me says that maybe he's not necessarily in our plans for round zero. Because he played so well, maybe he now is forcing himself into the team. But when you've got someone like Will Hoskin Elliott, who's 32 years old, and you've got this young kid who's now, what, 21, maybe 22, who played the last round last year and absolutely dominated after about a 6 week patch in the VFL where he was dominating. Has a good preseason, plays well last week as a CBA midfielder, and then he doesn't start in this preseason game. When he comes on, he dominates again. I just don't see. I know they play different positions, but we're just talking about the flexibility in our team. You can move the magnets around. Sidebottom can play anywhere. The Dacosses, Houston, the list goes on and on and on. Jack Crisp is the perfect example. These guys can move around. So I don't see why Will Hoskin Elliott is in our plans for the first few games of the year over someone like an Ed Allen. It makes no sense to me. You got this young kid from WA. We don't want him to go home. We want him to be a
It's not going
regular.
to go.
Well, you never know. You never know. We got to give him games.
He comes
Like,
from he comes from a footy family. They know we're developing him, and he's going to be
yes,
picking up a
but
lot of great knowledge from the likes of Sidebottom and Pendlebury.
that's
And
my
it's
next
and
point.
it's a slow burn.
That's literally my next point. I want to see him in the team while we've got Pendlebury and Sidebottom there. He can learn on field from these greats of our club. Like, what a better education would there be than playing alongside Pendlebury and Sidebottom in the seniors and helping him settle in? I just don't want to look back in 4 years' time when he's back home playing for Fremantle and we're like,
It's not.
shit, if we played a 32-year-old Will Hoskin Elliott, who's still a very serviceable player, but he's no star. If we played him over someone that could be a potential superstar in Ed Allen, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
Yeah, look, I agree that he should be in over Will Hoskin Elliott. I agree, but I don't think there's any fear in him leaving. I think everyone's on the same page They know what they're doing. It's just a slow burn. But yeah, ultimately, I agree with you that he should be in the side, but I don't fear him leaving.
Well,
Sorry.
he's contracted for a little bit longer. He signed a big contract when he first came with us. It was like 4 years, but that would be, I think he'd probably have this year and next year left on that. It's not uncommon for a player to request a trade before their contract's up, isn't it? So if he doesn't get a good go this year, what's going to stop him from saying, I want to go home a
Well,
year early?
because I think he's on the same page with the club. I
Heck,
think, because I've heard his dad talk, Ben Allen, and he understands what's
okay.
going
Well,
on.
but
Yeah.
all that aside, I also think he could play a better role for us right now
Oh yeah,
than
no,
with Hoskin
I'm not
Elliott.
disagreeing with you. I just,
So
yeah,
Hoskin Elliott play, high half forward, wing, like that kind of role. It's very easy to put side bottom in that role, as we were just talking about, and then put Ed Allen in the CBAs instead of side bottom. I don't know.
anyway.
But how good was he when he came on though? He was fantastic. What? No worries.
I'm just thinking when you said everybody knows I'm an Ed Allen fan. I think last time I looked, we had 15 subscribers, but anyway,
15 on YouTube. On
everybody knows.
YouTube. Our
All the
Spotify and Apple Podcast subscribers are fantastic. Actually, can I just mention,
what's that?
just very quickly, while you bring that up, is this is episode number 7 for the year. So we've done 7 preseason episodes. Far out. We appreciate the support from you guys because we did 29 episodes last year, Michael.
Mm,
29.
mm.
And the numbers weren't bad for a first year podcast. But in 7 episodes, we're about to go past the total amount of listeners in that amount of time, in 7 episodes, than what we did for 29 last year.
Mm.
Which you can look at it both ways. Is it we were really bad last year or we really good this year?
Oh, we're on YouTube this year. That's where the
Yeah, but
viewers are.
we're not getting a heap of YouTube viewers yet because we're still new to YouTube. So it's really
So we're getting the few. We shouldn't be talking about ourselves anyway.
No, but I just want to thank you guys. It's like,
let's-
but for them, get around the socials a little bit more. That's where we're still weak. I would appreciate it if the people jumped on Instagram and all that and sort of like joined in the conversation as I always open with. Like,
yeah, now the viewers want me to talk about the picture.
but yeah, sorry, that's
So the
not the picture.
last couple of weeks, I've had Billy Pickett's 76 mark of the year up there. You would have seen this is his 74 mark of the year, and you've got I love this picture. You got Francis Burke up here. Move your head, Dermot. They can't see Francis Burke. You got
Michael,
the great Francis Burke.
most
You
of them,
got
as we just said, are listening to this, not
you've got
watching.
well, I'm painting in the picture. They don't need to see it because I'm painting it so
Move like that,
beautifully.
yes.
You got Twiggy Dunn there. You got Clokey. I think that's Paul Sproul from Richmond, and that's Barry Price. And of course, you got Billy taking the mark. I don't know who the number 5 is. So if you're a Richmond supporter,
Why would
who
a
was number
Richmond
5?
supporter be watching this?
I'm wondering, is that Rex Hunt? Maybe it was. But you got Billy taking the mark, and of course, you got John Greening at the front there. And this was a very significant game, this one. This is Greening's comeback match.
Come on, Michael.
No, this is good. Listen up. This is Greening's comeback match after 18 months out after having been king hit. And he actually suffered brain damage. Unfortunately, he didn't play for much longer after this. But he was one of the great wingmen of his day. I wonder if he was still, because he was only very young when he finished playing. If he was around in 77, 79, 81, we probably snatch a flag or two. There you go.
All right, let's move on. So Ed Allen, yeah, we've spoken about him. Lockie Schultz. Now, Lockie Schultz, it seems like every time Lockie gets it, it's scrappy, doesn't it? It's scrappy. But in saying that, I was just happy to see him get involved. He was decent. He would go missing too often last year, way too often. So to actually see him getting involved was encouraging. I just wondered, was this what he was like at Fremantle? Why does everything seem so difficult? Even if he does something good, it seems like it's not going to be good to say. It's very scrappy to begin with. It's hard work for him out there. So, but he's looking better.
Hmm.
Do you have the same opinion? I know
Well,
you're a big Lockie Shields fan.
a spoiler alert. Dermot's asked me to put together my top 5 of the Copeland
Oh
Trophy.
God, you haven't put Lockie Shields in there, have you?
I've snuck Lockie in.
Interesting.
I'm expecting bigger things from him this year. As
Top
I've said,
5 in the Copeland.
as I said last week, I don't think I think his year last year was underrated. Was he as good as we wanted him to be at the start? No, he wasn't. But he still laid his 80 plus tackles. He still kicked 25 goals thereabouts. If that's a bad year from Lockie, well, the upside is looking really good. Um,
Right, okay. 2 more points from this game. So Reef was solid without being amazing. I guess the ball I guess he didn't have a lot to do down there, and he wasn't really on the greatest opponent, so he didn't have. It's hard to judge, but it's encouraging preseason, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do against the Giants in round zero. What did you think of his game? No? Okay.
Sorry,
So
I
you
was
want to be included. You're
I was
scared. You say you're scared to talk, and then I ask you,
because I was thinking about John Green again and how he could have. What? Sorry, I was just. What's a
Reef McGuinness.
Reef McGuinness? Yes, Reef McGuinness. I think he battled. He battled hard. He didn't show a lot. Like, he didn't do anything flashy. There wasn't any intercept marking. There wasn't any kind of great penetrative kicking out of the back line. But I think he's just getting used to that role. And jury's still out. Basically, what I'm saying, jury's still out on Reece McGuinness.
Well, a spoiler, Mick McGuane says some very interesting things about
Oh,
Reef
yeah,
McGuinness. Very interesting.
yep.
So stay tuned for that. I wanted to end my notes anyway. You might have a little bit to say after
No,
this, but I wanted to end it with this. So I'm very quick to bag this guy when he's not playing well, and I did it in the last episode. But Pat Lipinski, 37 disposals at 78% efficiency. He's locked himself into round zero.
He did play well.
But
Sorry.
remember these preseason matches, they're very friendly to the outside players. But 37 disposals at 78%. You can't bag that. He's now a lock. Pat Lipinski is a lock. The famous quote from last year. He's a lock in the team.
He's a lock in the team.
He was good. So
how'd that Samson Ryan from Richmond? You could build a team around that guy.
Shocking footballer.
He's
a shocking footballer.
You could build a team around.
You actually wrote Samson Ryan.
I didn't want to forget him in my notes.
All right. So anything else
Samson
from that game that caught your eye?
Let me have. I don't think so. I think that's it. That's all.
All right. So going into round zero then. Round zero. So I haven't put my predicted team together because that's going to take too long to run through. But I've sort of broken what I think the team will be up into small groups. So we'll have a little chat about how we could potentially line up. So the defensive seven, all right? The defensive seven for me are going to be Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, Reef McGuinness as the tall/mediums. Then you got Josh Dacos, Maynard, who's going to come back, who didn't play in that game, and Oleg as the seventh defender. Now, Dan Houston's obviously suspended for opening round. So for me, when you look at that, Moore, Howe, Reef, Josh, Maynard, Oleg, come round one, Houston is coming in for Oleg, isn't he? This is what I want to say. So you're saying it's his position to lose.
If he plays well, they're not going to drop him.
But who are they going? Are they going to drop Josh Dacos or Braden Maynard?
I'm just thinking that's a lot of guys. How are they going? Obviously, there's going to be form lapses, there's going to be injuries, I suppose. But if all those guys are up and firing for the majority of the year, who does miss out?
Markov. That's the thing. It is Markov.
I think McRae's got a bit of a soft spot for Markov. I think McRae wants Markov in his best side.
But he had a soft spot for Noble, and he had to make the tough call.
I don't think he ever has.
Well, Noble played about 84 games in a row, so obviously liked him.
Oh, yeah, but not all of them under McRae.
Yeah, a lot of them under McRae. He was a best 22
anyway,
player.
well, it's a great problem to have. You're right.
Well, it is. You're not dropping Josh and you're not dropping Maynard. The other three play, Reef, Howe, and Moore play different positions. So you're picking one to drop out of Josh Dacos, Braden Maynard, and Oleg Markov for Dan Houston. Yeah. Unless you want to keep Houston in the reserves and play Oleg, Mick.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a very good problem.
Houston does come in. No doubt about it. Of course he does.
Yeah.
We're not their biggest recruit of the year and we're playing in the twos. No.
But
it'll be interesting to see who they do drop if Oleg plays well.
It is a great problem to have, but I just don't think I think he's going to be in and he's going to be out. And look, for me, you also got Will Parker in this conversation because I think Will Parker is going to be a really good player for us. I'm really excited about what he can do. So we've got a lot of depth there in that end.
And then, of course, we've got Harvey Harrison coming back, hopefully in the second half of the year.
He's not a halfback flanker.
Oh no, he's not a halfback flanker, but he's still, he's what? He's still
a small forward that can push up.
No, he can push up into the wing. He's kind of
right. Not really a defensive player, but we'll move on from that. That's a bit of a strange player to throw into the defensive seven, but.
No, he's just another running small guy, which a lot of those blokes are. Anyway, keep on going.
So the midfield group for round zero. So Darcy Cameron's obviously a number one ruck. Dan McStay's going to be the backup. Then you've got Nick, potentially Geordie, and we'll talk about replacements if he doesn't play. Nick, Geordie, Pendles, and Perryman for me. They're the four main CBA guys. Crisp and Lipinski are going to be on the wings. And then you got Bottom, who I just don't know what to expect. So you got I've put him down as he's switching between wing and the middle as a possible tagger. So they're basically the guy. Nick, Geordie, Pendles, Perryman, Chris, Lipinski, Bottom.
Mm.
Fuck, that's strong. That is strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
So not much to say there. The forward group, you got the Triple M's, Mychek, McStay, Membry. We've already talked a lot about. And then at their feet, you got Bobby Hill, Jamie Elliott, Bo McCreary, Lockie Schultz. And you mentioned them all and the guys that could potentially kick 25 plus. That's as solid as possible. So we are across all three lines. There's not really much of a debate. We know how we're going to line
Of course,
up.
that 25 plus is conservative. A couple of those guys could be hitting 40 plus, maybe even push. Like somebody like Mastay, if he plays the whole year, predominantly as a forward, he could kick 50 goals.
The sub, I've got. So for me, the sub is going to be, it's going to be 50-50. It's going to be about the two guys that we just spoke about, Will Hoskin-Elliott and Ed Allen. I've put down Will Hoskin-Elliott. I think that's how they're going to go. The fact that he started in the team and Ed Allen came on later, I think that kind of gives it away. But I'm just hoping that Ed Allen did enough in that last quarter and a half, and I think, no, we need to play this guy. But if Jordan De Goey isn't fit, I think for me, Ed Allen comes straight into that 22, replaces Geordie in the midfield, and Hoskin-Elliott stays as a sub.
Yeah, De Goey's not going to play.
Well,
He's
they
not-
haven't ruled him out.
No, he won't. He won't. He definitely won't play.
Really, definitely
who's
not.
who's the head of conditioning?
Jared Wade.
Yeah, they were talking to him. Was it him the other day? I saw a quote. Reading between the lines, he's no chance. I reckon he'll. They're basically saying they want to manage him.
But how can he be no chance? Like, he's got fucking bone bruising. It's not a bad injury.
It's not about the bone bruising.
He's been in main training for a few weeks now.
Yeah, it's not about the bone bruising. It's about the groin issues he had last year, and they just want to be very conservative with him. I don't reckon he'll play until after the bye. That's what I'm reading between the lines.
I think it's a 50-50 chance for opening round. And if he doesn't play opening round, he's 100% going to be there round one against Port Adelaide.
To use an old expression, I'll eat my hat if he plays opening round. De Goey would not play opening round.
Well, if you're right, then Ed Allen has to be in the 22. But you know what's going to probably happen is if De Goey's not there, what they're going to do is Sidebottom will be that CBA midfielder. Hoskin-Elliott will start in the 22. Ed Allen will be the sub. I don't think that should be the case. I think it's pretty obvious if Geordie isn't there, Ed Allen is bang smack in the midfield. If Geordie is there, my gut is Hoskin-Elliott sub and Ed Allen's missing out altogether. I got the emergencies, Ed Allen, Will Parker, Billy Frampton. I think that's how we're going to roll. But here's a question. This isn't about opening round. I was talking to Andreas on Instagram the other day, and we're both huge Tom Mitchell fans, and we've been big on him being 100% lock into 22. But once he's fit, if you got Perriman playing this role and playing it really well, and you got someone like an Ed Allen that's pushing to be in the side, is Tom Mitchell the lock that the two of us and you thought that he was?
Yeah, well, I heard Andreas talking about this on his Thursday night podcast.
I missed that one. Yeah.
He raised it's a good point. It's an interesting point. I don't know. Again, a bit like the halfback flank is a good problem to have.
I don't want to leave Tom Mitchell out, but
because as he said, 6 games ago, he played a great grand final, and that was only 18 months ago. I just think when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, I just think for a side contending for a flag, you know what you're going to get with Tom Mitchell. He's so experienced and so good that somebody like an Ed Allen in a developing year, I'm not sure how much confidence you want to put in or how much responsibility you want to give to somebody like an Ed Allen when you're contending for a flag.
But can I just add, it would be Perryman that's taking the Mitchell role, and who is a very experienced player and a leader, very experienced player. And I think Ed Allen, if he's in the team, would be more a guy that's rotating in and out of the mid, maybe on a wing, maybe a half-forward flank, and not taking that Tom Mitchell role, protecting Nick and Geordie. That would be Perryman.
Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, again, good problem to have.
It's going to be difficult. Who knows? By the time Tom Mitchell's fit, we may have an injury. Geordie might be injured.
Oh, yeah. We've spoken about this best 23 philosophy in the past. How many times a year do you roll out your best 23?
quietly, look how good does Pendlebury look in his 20th coming into his 20th season. The guy's a freak.
Mm.
He's a freak. Um, all right. Anything to add about opening round and how we might line up?
No.
No. What we're going to do now is our season predictions, Mick.
Right.
So I'll start off. So we're going to do our ladder first, and I'll do my ladder first, and then you chime in. So I actually went to the trouble of going online and tipping every single game for the year on the one of the ladder predictors and getting my final ladder,
Well,
which
I went to the trouble of taking 45 seconds out of my day. Uh,
I may add, not only did I do that, I then had to edit it because we had the Bontempelli news, which kind of changed what I was thinking about the dogs early in the season, especially because they missed Intralaw. Actually, segue. I spoke to you on the phone the other day. I ranted about our start to the year and our fixture a few episodes ago and how disgraceful it was. I reckon the gods are looking after us because it gets a little bit easier. As I said to you on the phone, GWS in round zero, Tom Green injured, their best player. Round one against Port Adelaide, Zach Butters is injured, their best player. Round two, the Bulldog, Marcus Bontempelli injured, clearly their best player, second best player in the comp after Nick. Also, Adam Treloar won't be there as well. Then they've got a host of players. Their forward line, no Jamara, no Waitman. Ed Richards is under okay. We'll probably be okay by that point. So that opens up for us. Round four, Gabba round. Errol Goulden, he's out for months. It's been confirmed now. Close to their best player. It's either him, Heaney, or Warner. It's the three of them all very even. All of a sudden, this difficult draw has got a hell of a lot easier for us because of these key players getting injured for the opposition. So no one wants to see the Bonds and they get injured. I love the Bonds. He's probably my favourite player in the comp outside of Collingwood, but God, it's good for us and good for Nick's Brownlow chances, not having to compete with the Bonds anymore.
yeah, well, not that the Bont gets the Brownlow votes he should, but
he
anyway, he's just some people are just not
he's
Brownlow
so much better
vote
than Patrick
gatherers.
Cripps, isn't he? So much better.
Oh,
How is
yeah.
the umpires like the disrespect the umpires give to the Bonds,
Mm.
and then they just love Cripps? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Cripps with his dinky little 1 meter handballs.
But
It's just
he's a great.
he's a
Cripps.
great
He's a
player.
great.
Yes, he is a great.
But
And he deserved his Brownlow. He wasn't undeserving of the Brownlow last year, but he was undeserving of
the
the
45.
45 votes.
All right. Anyway, so what I had to do, had to update my ladder a little bit in the last day or two after all this news. So what I've come up with. So I've got the top two. I've got GWS on top of the ladder, 18 wins, 5 losses, and I've actually got the Pies second, 18 wins, 5 losses. I think we're bouncing back, man. I've only got the Giants ahead of us on percentage. I think we're going to be good. So yep, GWS and Collingwood 1 and 2. Uh, my teams 3 and 4. I've got both of them in 17 wins, 6 losses, and that is Carlton and Fremantle. Carlton I originally had down at about 6 or 7. I had the Bulldogs and Sydney and these teams a little bit higher, but then these injuries. I know Carlton are suffering a lot of injuries. You got Curnow, you got Walsh, there's a few more off the top of my head. I can't remember, but they're sort of more short-term injuries. Like Curnow should be back for round 1 or 2. Walsh will start the season. They might be a little bit underdone, but at least they're there. Whereas a lot of these other clubs have lost their guns for long term. So I think Carlton, despite those injuries, plus I ranted about their easy draw to start the year. They've got a bloody easy draw as well. So even when these guys are trying to get their match fitnesses
They got
back,
an,
they
easy,
should
they
they
got an
should
easy
be.
year.
They've got an easy year. So I've got them in third spot. Freo, I really rate. I've got in the top four, both on 17 wins, 6 losses. I've then got it at number 5, Brisbane, the reigning premiers. Originally, I had them down at 8th spot. I had them hanging on. People might laugh at that and be like, "Oh, reigning premiers," but Collingwood missed the finals last year after being the reigning premiers. Geelong the year before. Richmond did it a couple of years before that. It's not uncommon anymore. But with these other teams and their gun players dropping off, Brisbane, despite losing Joe Danaher, and that's probably why I had them falling down the 8th because he's probably their most important player. But they've had a whole
He's their only key forward.
but they've had a whole preseason now to train without him. So I reckon they should be able to cover Joe better than what the Dogs will be able to do trying to cover someone like Bonds for the first few weeks. So I've got them in 5th spot, 16 wins, 7 losses. From 6th down to 8th, I've got all these teams of 15 wins, 8 losses, and that is Sydney. I think they're still going to be okay. I think they needed to get rid of Horse, and now they've got Dean Cox. They should be able to sort of. It's just a fresh start that they need. Obviously, losing Gordon hurts, but they should be okay. They lack key forward and a key defender, I reckon. But yeah, I still got them in sixth spot. I got the Hawks in seventh. How they are second premiership favourites, I don't understand. Originally, I had them out of the eight. I've given them a couple more wins now because they come up against the Sydney and the Bulldogs in that early, which I tipped against them. So yeah, but I still think they're a good team. But I reckon sides might be able to figure them out a little bit more, despite their defense looking really solid with Barras and Battle down there now. So I got them in seventh spot.
It was more interesting when I was talking about the poster.
And this is a big one. Eighth spot, Gold Coast Suns. 15 wins, 8 losses. I rate the Suns. I rate Dimmer. They got a good young list. And I reckon it's about bloody time they did something. And I reckon this will be the year. I've got them in the 8. Just missing out. 13 wins, 10
Did you do the
losses.
whole ladder? You told me top 8.
I said the ladder.
Oh, I thought you said top 8.
Mick,
I stopped.
we ran.
I stopped at 11 because I got this.
That's all right. Well,
I went down to 11 because I wanted to show the top 8 and those you just missed out. I
right.
didn't know you won the whole thing.
I wanted a ladder. I've then got ninth spot Geelong just missing out, 13 wins, 10 losses. I've always got Geelong just missing out and they end up making the top 4. So that means nothing. The Bulldogs, who are really bloody rated and had them, I think, in fifth spot, I've got them dropping all the way down to 10th now because of these injuries because it was already so bloody close as it was. 12 wins, 11 losses. And then the next two teams, Adelaide and Port Adelaide, in 11th and 12th. 12 wins, 11 losses, 11 wins, 12 losses. They'll be sort of like those middle teams. And then I think there's a big gap. I've then got North Melbourne in 13th spot. I reckon there's going to be a bit of improvement. I got them winning 8 games, North Melbourne. So I think they're gonna improve. They're not going to be pushing for the finals, but I don't think they're going to be bottom 4. I got the Bombers. I've got them winning 6 games and Melbourne below them in 15th spot winning 6 games. Just don't rate them. Melbourne's culture is fucking shot. I said that last year, and you're like, oh, culture doesn't matter. Well, there we go.
Culture doesn't matter.
It does matter when all your good players want to leave. So I think Clary's looking bloody good at the moment, and Petrarca's struggling a little bit with an injury.
Well,
but
I thought about Oliver for the Brown. I think of it.
he's not going to be the Brown.
No. But as far as betting goes, I reckon he'd be long odds. I reckon if you want to take a bit of a chance, he's your best bet.
Maybe. So yeah, I've got them in 14th and 15th, Essendon and Melbourne on 6 wins each. I've then got West Coast in 16th spots, given them 4 wins. St Kilda in 17th spot. They are fucking woeful. They're struggling with injuries. I've given them 3 wins. That's my big tip this year. So
As they offered Callaghan 1.7 million,
they were just,
and I don't think he returned their call.
they're throwing their money around, aren't they?
No.
No one wants to join. They've offered DeConian a similar amount, I think, and I don't think he's turned it down yet. But yeah,
But just culture, they're just.
who wants to play for them?
Who wants to play for a side who, in their 150-year history, so going back before the VFL, they've won one flag by a point against us, bloody hell, in 150 years. So I know you can't compare what's happening today to what happened in 1911, but it's just the atmosphere. It's just you talk about culture. It's just the losing culture. It's in there. It's in their mortar.
Why would Tom DeConey want to leave a great club like Carlton? Makes me feel sick saying that. But why would you want to leave a great club like Carlton to play for St Kilda?
And why would you bring back Ross? Really, Ross had his go and he couldn't win it for him because he relied on kicking 12 goals and keeping the opposition to 10 to win a premiership. Very hard to keep grand final sides to 10 goals.
Yeah. I think they needed.
I think they made a mistake.
They needed to go and find the next great assistant. You know, you got your Craig McRae, Sam Mitchell, Adam Kingsley over the last few years. Look like great coaches. They needed to find the next one. Like West Coast have done with McQualter. Could he be the next great assistant to come in? They stuffed up. And anyway, 18th spot, bottom of the ladder, Richmond, giving them 1 win. That was against West Coast. Gee, I tipped them in that.
I've made the big prediction. They won't get more than 3.
So just to run through quickly, GWS, Collingwood, Carlton, Freo in the top 4. Brisbane, Sydney, Hawthorn, Gold Coast ran out the 8. Just missing out, you got Geelong, Bulldogs, Adelaide, Port Adelaide. A bit of a gap with North Melbourne, Essendon, and Melbourne sort of being in that next little patch. And then the bad, pathetic teams of the comp. You got West Coast, St Kilda, Richmond. No one wants to watch those 3 play. Shocking clubs, those 3.
Well, one of them's just won 3 premierships.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Richmond have an excuse.
I think
So last year they were pathetic and they had no kids or anything. Now their kids are look to be awesome,
I
but they're not
think,
going to do it from year one. So they've
yeah, I
got an
know,
excuse.
but
St Kilda,
I think they're a pretty good club.
St Kilda are what Richmond were last year, I reckon.
Yeah, I
They,
think,
they, well, I don't see any.
yeah.
Philip, who looks like a gun, but he's out for the first half of the year. They got no really good, exciting kids. Hugo Garcia looks all right.
Richmond are a switched on club. They're not
They'll,
great.
they'll be right long term, but this year
Yeah,
they're going to be
yeah.
shocking.
Oh,
Anyway, go Mick. It's your turn.
okay. Same top of the ladder side, GWS.
Really? Okay.
GWS, I think, was the best side in it last year. They left the Premiership. They
They
left bottom of
choked
the
it, didn't
table.
they?
They were ahead by 44 in one game, the famous 44-point
Brisbane
lead.
game. And the Sydney game the week
And
before.
what, 33 points, 32 points? They should have won the flag last year.
Yeah.
They will be spewing. So I had them at number one. I have Brisbane at number two.
Okay.
And I know they lost their only key forward in Joe Danaher.
Poor Hipwood.
And when was the last time Hipwood took a contested mark? Please. I'm more of a danger of taking a contested mark.
You're one of the worst footballers I've ever seen.
I'm not, but I just think on the weight of their probably 12 games they got up there in the home and away season, they're going to be thereabouts. They're going to be top four. So yeah, number two, I have the Pies at 3. I have Freo at 4.
Okay.
I have
similar top 4 then. That's
I have Hawthorn at 5.
Okay.
I wasn't sure they could go one of a couple of ways, can't they? But I really rate Sam Mitchell as a coach. Geelong at 6 because they're Geelong and they never go away.
That's fair. Yeah.
Gold Coast making the finals for the first time.
We're on the same page. I thought you were going to laugh at me.
No, number 7. I have Sydney slipping to 8. I think they played above. I can't see them playing any better than they did last year. Where Goulden, Warner, and Heaney, those guys can't play better.
Yeah, so and Goulden's injured now.
And Goulden's injured. Where's the improvement going to come from? And I think after another slacking in the grand final,
it could break them. Yeah,
it could break them mentally. And also, they're a bit weak. Key backs, they're a bit short. Yeah, key backs,
key forward. You got 7 of the same 8 as me, so it's not often we're on the same.
And I only spent 45 seconds on mine. Port 9. Yeah, well, I still rate them as a side, but
they don't think they can win the Premiership because they've already sacked Hinkley. So if they. But what are they doing? Get rid of him now. What's the point in having this year with Hinkley? They may as well just start with Carr.
Carlton 10th.
Yeah, right? that's where we're really different.
Never rated Carlton, and
you'll regret that. They'll make top 4, I reckon.
The Bulldogs 11, just because there's just. They're just not settled with Jamari Hagan taking most of the summer off. They just seem, and now the Bont. I did this before I realised the Bont was injured.
So you did it before the Bont?
I think I did it
because I had him clearly in my 8 and then dropped him out.
Really, the Bont doesn't influence this position anyway. They won't make the 8 even with him. I don't think. Yeah, right. Well, they're going to be thereabouts. But just outside for me at the moment.
I think the Bulldogs on paper, when everyone's fit, is close to the best team in the competition. Like their key forwards, their midfield, their defense. Fucking unreal. It's their pathetic coach, Bevo. This team could have. He's the Premiership coach. I get that. 10 years ago.
And he got them to a grand final.
But I fair dinkum. This team should have won 2 or 3 flags on paper. Over the last 10 years, they've had a great list. He's ruined Josh Dunkley, and now look what he's doing at Brisbane. He's ruined Bailey Smith. He's ruined Jack McRae. He's ruined Caleb Daniel.
Hold on. Let me interject. You need to be taken to task.
Okay.
Josh Dunkley won the best and fairest in his last year at the Dogs.
He may or may not have. I don't know.
I'm telling you, he did.
But he was grossly played out.
May or may not.
He was played out of position. He was played as a half forward flanker that had stints in the midfield and played second ruck, and he hated it. And he walked out of the club. He tried walking out 12 months beforehand. You think that at that point they're like, shit, we need to play this guy in the right position. They still didn't. Bevo's stubborn as fuck, ruined him, and then he ended up walking out. Look what he's done for Brisbane. He ruined Bailey Smith. I know he was injured last year, but even before that, he spent 2 years playing Bailey Smith out of position. He played Jack McRae out of position. He played Caleb Daniel out of position. They've all left, and rightly so. They got fuck all for them, and look what they're doing at their new clubs. As a fantasy and supercoach player, the way that I've been watching those 3 in their preseason.
This is where
and they are sensational. Like Jack McRae dominated yesterday as an inside mid. Caleb Daniels dominated on a halfback flank. And Bailey Smith is a midfielder, and Bevo's playing all these guys as a half forward or as a sub, and now they all walk out of the club. He's completely
when it comes to
who's he going to ruin this year, Bevo? Is he going to ruin Riley Sanders, their next young gun? Is that what he's going to do?
Dermot, you can't give a balanced opinion because you let your little fantasy football thing blind
But
you.
the fans say
Like
the same thing, Mick. The fans say the same
if
thing.
somebody mucks up the number of points you win in any given week, you hate them.
No, no,
Okay, and it clouds
but
your
I'm right
judgment.
because the fans say the same thing. The media say the same thing.
It
Kane,
clouds your
Kane
judgment.
Corns has been saying this for a long time. The players agree that they're walking out of the club, Mick. The players
Well,
agree. Sam Draper came out and said the players are unhappy and they're all going to walk out. And you know what? They bloody did. They lost 3 guns for nothing. This isn't me and my
Hold on.
fantasy football.
Who's the 3 guns they lost?
Smith, McRae, and Daniel.
Well, McRae was in the back end of his career.
No,
He's in the
it's still
twilight.
like 30, man. You might think that he's shit because Bevo was playing him in a shit position, so you're probably thinking, oh, he's done. He's actually still a good footballer, Jack McRae. Anyway, I'm very passionate about
Very
it.
emotional. Let's move on.
We've both got them missing 8 despite having an amazing list. So that's saying a lot about Bevo.
I'm going to go first now. I'm going to
Okay, so what's it? Premiers?
So Premiers, GWS to beat the Pies. It hurts me to say that, but I think they will. I think they're cherry ripe for a Premiership, GWS. Really are. And unfortunately might be at the Pies' expense.
I've got Collingwood to beat the Giants in the grand final. So we're two in the same grand final. We'll beat them at the G, mate. Don't you fucking worry about that. We'll be right.
Yeah.
Brownlow, Mick.
Brownlow,
Say it.
I've gone for Nick Dacos for the Brownlow.
Brownlow for me, Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos, he's doing it.
Yes,
We're agreeing too much.
we are.
Coleman. This is where we're going to be different, I reckon.
Coleman, well, I originally wrote down the North guy because I couldn't remember his name. And Dermot tells me it's Nick Larkey.
Yes,
Nick Larkey, I think, because you touched on it, you reckon North will win a few more games. I think they'll win a few more games this year.
Yeah.
So he'll have better delivery. He's got the Jack Darling down there.
Take a little bit.
Jack Darling
I agree.
will take a little bit of heat for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So I reckon he kicked 77 a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I reckon he might win it.
He's a good player. I've got Sam Darcy. So this is what I mean about Bulldogs list. And I'm a little bit more unsure now that the Bont's out. He's not going to be able to deliver it to him. But I'm going to stick with it. I think Sam Darcy is ready to explode. This is what I mean. They've got a great midfield. They've got a great forward. Sam Darcy, Norton, Ugo Hagen, if he's ever going to come back. I don't know how we've got them missing the 8 because their list is that bloody good. But Sam Darcy, man, that's a good draft. Nick Dacos, Sam Darcy, and Jason Hall-Francis. Far out, that's a good draft. But yeah, I think he's going to win the Coleman. I think he's ready to explode. Who can go with him? He's like, what, 210 centimeters? And unlike Mason Cox, he's a natural forward.
I tell you, could go with him. My check in the back line could go with him.
Yes.
He could body him under the ball. That's what happened to us last year. We had nobody with any strength to play on him who could push him under
My
the ball.
check wouldn't be able to go with Sam Darcy.
I think he obviously. I think he could. I think he would have done a better job than last year.
Than Charlie Dean, yeah.
Than Charlie Dean last year. And that wasn't Charlie Dean's fault.
No.
He was playing on a beanstalk and he didn't have much more strength than the beanstalk. At least my check has got the strength and the experience to push him under the ball. But anyway, there we go.
All right. And Rising Star, Mick.
Rising Star, I got a question mark because other than that, Jagger Smith.
Jagger Smith.
Jesse Smith. They're just names to me, names on a piece of paper. How am I supposed to make an educated guess on who's the better player?
Well, you're just bagging me out for my fantasy football. I'll be able to answer that because I studied all the rookies in their preseason.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, I did have Jagger Smith before the ACL. I also had as a smoky Hugo Garcia from St Kilda.
Yes, Hugo. Yeah.
Yes, you would have no idea who he is. I watched a little bit of him yesterday in the practice match. I've got my doubts now, so I'm going to play the straight bat. Like I did with the Brownlow and Nick Dacos. Levi Ashcroft, Brisbane. Straight bat. He'll win the Rising Star, I think. Have you heard of Levi Ashcroft, Mick?
Yes, I've heard of Levi Ashcroft. Yeah.
All right, here's the big one. Top 5 Copeland. This is a Collingwood podcast, so we want to keep it Collingwood related. Who have you got in the Copeland?
I've got Nick winning it.
I've
got Josh second. I won't say that. I suspect he might get some of Nick's votes by accident.
That was the Brownlow that happened last year, not the Copeland.
Dan Houston in his first year with the Pies. I think he will be up there third. Cameron, I think we'll have another good year.
Yep.
Lockie Schultz rounding out the top 5. I can see him getting 90 plus tackles. I can see him kicking 30 plus goals. I think he's going to be good for us. First year settling in, new club, slightly different role than the one he had at the Fremantle. So yeah,
Look, I hope you're right. That would be awesome.
yeah.
But I don't think you're going to be right.
I think he just needs a bit of support from the Collingwood supporters online to stop the
Get
abuse.
around him, pause. Um, we got four to say in top five.
Oh,
Why
really?
do we keep on agreeing? I've got Nick winning it. I've got Dan Houston coming second. Um, I've got Darcy Cameron coming third. This is our difference. In fourth spot, I've got Dan McStay. I think he's ready to explode. The fact that he's going to, I reckon, be our leading goal kicker, but also ruck as well. He's going to be so important to what we do. I'm going to make a call. He could be our most important player based on
Yeah,
he
I can
could
see
be.
that.
He
I can
could
see
be.
that.
And
Because
because of
he's the hardest to replace if he was to go down.
100%. And based on that, and based on his role as a forward and a ruck, I think if he has a good year and he stays injury free, that will show in the Copeland. So I've got him finishing in the top four, and I've got Josh rounding out my top five. I reckon he's in for a bloody awesome year of halfback alongside Dan Houston. I wanted to put Braden Maynard in there just because I just think that he's one that the coaches love.
I thought about Maynard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my top five. Any other predictions that you want to talk about in hot topics for the season ahead, Mick?
No,
All right.
no.
Well, we're now gonna go to the big reveal, the Mick McGuane interview, one on one, Mick v Mick. So yeah, listen to that. Then we'll be back with to wrap up this podcast with Who Am I? But here it
Oh,
is,
yes, the Who Am I?
the
Yep.
Who Am I? But here it is, Mick v Mick. Enjoy.
So, welcome and joining us today on Into the Woods is a two-time Copeland Trophy winner. Came second once as well, I think. All-Australian EJ Whitten medalist for Best on Ground for Victoria. Mick McGuane, thanks for joining us, Mick.
G'day, Michael. How are you, mate? Pleasure to be
Good,
here.
good, thanks. Yep, appreciate your time. We're going to look, I'm not going to go chronological today, Mick, so I'm going to go different eras, different times. I was reading your Wikipedia the other day and your coaching record, and it's really impressive, as we all know. Premierships all over the place. But one thing that stuck out for me, Gisborne in 2002, you coached the under 18s, the reserves, and the seniors all to premierships that year. How did that eventually? It's not right.
No, that's not right.
Oh well,
No.
so that's a good
No.
good start. But that's what Wikipedia says. But that's not right. So what was
Yeah,
it?
no.
What was the situation?
Oh, do you want to start again so it doesn't make you look stupid?
No. I'm comfortable in looking stupid, Mick. Just keep on going.
Oh, okay. No, I was just trying to protect you.
No,
just in case,
I appreciate that, but no, that's what Wikipedia says. So you did coach in Gisborne in 2002, but you didn't coach the three levels?
No, I was the coach of the senior team, but obviously a huge part of my philosophy when you coach local footy, it's about your investment in the program.
Mm.
And obviously you want your 18s and reserves to play a similar brand of your senior team. And when you go and watch practice matches in your first year in, you look at probably areas of deficiency the way other clubs might play, and you try to create an environment that's conducive to good learnings with your own playing group, but also to get a tactical advantage against the opposition you play against. So we probably streamlined that attitude to ensure that the whole club understood how we wanted to play, but more importantly, it's all about a young 17-year-old boy is showing good talent. They come up to the senior environment and they're conducive to what style we generally play, with the occasional tinkering here and there, depending on what opposition we play against. So that's what we did. We won the three flags in that environment. So it was a great start to the campaign, really.
Right. Well, some editing to do on that Wikipedia page, so I'll get onto that straight after the after the interview. Now, you did a bit of work with Grant Thomas at St Kilda. Did you harbour any wish to coach at senior level at AFL?
Yeah, I did. It was all about probably trying to get into that environment first and foremost. And Grant reached out through, unfortunately, Matty Rendell passed away, but he was his assistant coach, and he reached out and he asked me to come down to Moorabbin and have an informal chat, which I did the next day. It was really informal. Would you like to get back into the AFL landscape? The obvious answer to that was yes. Within a week, they rang me and said, you start on February the 1st. Jason Mifsud and myself. They need to expand their coaching staff because of they did have Jason Cripps and Matty Rendell there, but they just need to grow their coaching group to support Tomo. And basically we're there for the 6 months and loved every minute of it, but what probably put a sour taste in my mouth in terms of the last time, which was nearly a decade earlier, I was involved in the AFL industry as a player. I just sort of changed significantly, and particularly the way Grant Thomas was handled. I just thought if this is the way footy's become, I've probably got less desire to get in from when I started. But Grant Thomas was a very supportive person of mine, and I've become probably a decision that I made, and I was quite comfortable because I had a decision to make with the media. Offering me jobs in that landscape with the breakfast show, working with my teammate Michael Christian at RSN, a racing station that you guys over in Tassie would know. And
yeah, I used to listen to it back in the day.
Well, it just gave us an opportunity to do that. So that was basically it, because once that happened and I had to make a decision, it was either get shot or shoot, and I had a deadline to meet. And St Kilda still hadn't appointed their next coach. They were still in conversation with Ross Lyon, Guy McKenna, Chris Bond, and there was one other, John Longmire. And they decided to take Ross, but that was after the day, a few weeks after I had to make a decision with my RSN commitment, because I know the footy landscape works. You appoint a new coach, they might want to bring their own boys in to be assistants. The broom goes through the joint, and I couldn't afford to say no because I've got bills like everyone has, and I had a deadline to say to the radio station about what I got to do. That's the reason why I went back into the media, and from there I've been involved in local footy and the media ever since.
Right. All right. Now, going back to you as a player. So for those who may not have seen you play, in the 45 years I've been watching the Pies, you're in the top 5 players I've seen. I think you're kind of grossly underrated historically. I think so to give the listeners an idea, you broke the line. You're a guy who could really break the lines. You're a great distributor inside forward 50. You were versatile. You could play inside, outside, mid. You were very aggressive and intense, and you had a fantastic will to win. And I liken you a bit as far as being able to bring others into the play like a Pendlebury, modern day equivalent. Similarities there. I'm not sure what you think of that. But Lee Matthews probably gave you the biggest rap. I remember years ago, don't know where it was, but he said of all the players to have ever played the game, if he needed one to kick a goal from 40 to win a grand final, it would be you. So that's a huge rap from the greatest player ever. But one of the early things I heard about you was back in the late 80s, you were playing for St. Pat's or somewhere up at Ballarat, and you heard there were recruiters in the crowd, and you came out and you kicked 12 goals from centre half forward. Do you remember that? Is that a true story?
Yeah, it's a little bit distorted. What happened was my dad come to the school about 2:00. It was a Wednesday, and then we were playing that night against Ballarat High School. And he got a contact from Billy O'Keefe, who was the Collingwood recruiter at the time, fantastic fella, gentleman. Anyway, he said Collingwood is showing some interest, even though I'm in St Kilda's zone. And because I was over 15 years and 6 months being in HSC, my year 12 level, I was eligible to go to another club if I wasn't on that zone club's list, which I wasn't. And back then it had 50 names could be put on an under-19 list and 50 on the senior list with an injury component of 10 players. So you're dealing with 110 players back then in sort of 1985, and that was my HSC year. Anyway, knocked on the door. I was doing pure and applied maths. Brother Miller was my teacher, and I was in the front row being in the naughty boy front row. I saw my dad come to the door, and I heard him say to Brother Miller, "I'm here to see my son." "Who is it?" He said, "Michael McGuane." I looked up, I heard my voice, and I saw Dad, and I thought, "Oh shit, something's happened," because Dad would never come to school. And I thought something had happened to Mum or my sister. But he said, "What about the door?" He said, "Chance of a lifetime. Don't let it slip." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Collingwood, the team you barrack for, you're mad about. I come to watch you play tonight."
Right.
So obviously my mind went into overdrive, and I was thinking Darren Mullane and Peter Dacos and Billy Picken, blokes that I looked at the old winners' days, and I said, here's my chance. Possibly if I get a kick tonight, I might rub shoulders with them in the pre-season. And I was captain of the first 18 team, and I wanted to lead from the front as I always did. Loved winning, still do. I think that probably inspired me to those 12 goals that you rightfully put on the table. It was a good game.
Well, your dad
that night I signed at 6 o'clock.
Oh, with the
I signed with Collingwood at 6 o'clock that night. Yeah, Form 4. And then Billy said, well, tomorrow morning at 9:01, I'll submit this paperwork under the doors of Jollymont House. I'll log that your name onto Collingwood's list, and you'll probably get a call from St Kilda. And probably 10 minutes after that, Dad got a phone call from St Kilda, and they weren't really happy. Graham Jelly was the guy that was looking after the St Kilda recruitment at the time. And what the hell is he doing? Signing with them, so-and-sos. And that just added fuel to my fire every time I played against St Kilda, because he had his chance to put me on the list. But at the time, they thought, a lot of people in Ballarat thought I was a better cricketer than footballer. But I loved the game of footy more than cricket. But that aside, St Kilda had their chance to put me on their list to be with Plugger and Danny Frawley and blokes before that, Peter Keel, Gary Hodges, Russell Tweedale, Greg Packham. There's a lot of boys in that Ballarat area that made inroads into their St Kilda career because of who they played with up there. And I played a lot of footy against Tony, what a player he was. And Danny lived on the farm next door to the McGuanes. The Frawleys and McGuanes were next door neighbours. So what could have been, I suppose. But I was quite content to go to the club I was worked for.
Yeah. So your dad must have really known your psychology to have actually pointed that out to you before the game, because it might have had the opposite effect for some people, knowing the recruiters were in the crowd, but he obviously knew your mentality, that it would have fired you up. One game in particular. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I remember when Darren Mullane passed away, which I was gutted. Anne-Marie Sparkman for Channel 9 come down to the Oval and interviewed my mum and my dad, and it was about doing a feature for the Channel 9 Wide World of Sports about the work rate I was doing to cover the loss of pants. I trained my backside off trying to revisit what I knew he was trying to do in 92, because we were both disappointed with our 91 seasons. And as you know, he passed away on October the 6th in that 91 year, and a lot of the boys were gutted, and I wanted to put up my hand to try to replace him. Big shoes to fill. I was probably a long shot to say, I'm going to try to fill his boots, but I had a crack at it anyway, and I got super fit. And I remember in that interview, which I didn't know, that Dad said to Anne-Marie Sparkman at that time, one thing I do know about my son, if I put a challenge to him, irrespective whether he was 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 15-year-old, or now the age he is, he'll grasp it and he'll more or less eat it. That's the way he's always been. He's got an inner fire that people probably underestimate. He's a bit of a likeable, lovable rogue. But the reality was, it was about setting the benchmark high, and he knew it would make me tick, and that's the reason why I did it.
Right. A couple of points with 1990. There was a particular game, and I want to know if you found this significant as well. We played Essendon early on in the year. They beat us by 3 or 4 goals, comfortable win. We then went on to play them in the second time we played them was like round 18 out of Waverley. I don't know if you remember, it was pelting. It was actually hailing for about 2 quarters, and they beat us by 6 points. But I got the feeling you guys came away from that game knowing that you could beat them. And then, of course, you went on to beat them by 10 goals in the semi-final and 8 in the grand final. Do you remember that game at Waverley, and was that significant?
Yeah, the back end of the year was pretty significant. We believed right from probably the middle of July that we had a lot of luck with the injury element of the team. We were going to be very, very hard to beat. We believed we were good enough, irrespective of what opposition we were playing against. We had a fantastic playing group that was really selfless. We had a terrific leader in Shorey, but we had a good leadership group that was driven. And we just felt that we had the group to play really strong footy and the right brand to play the right type of footy in September. If we got to the situation of being in the grand final, I felt when people were saying we didn't have a lot of great players, I took that personally. I know a few of the other boys probably did as well. We might have had a great team on the day that mattered, but we had a lot of bloody good players, and a lot of people underestimated the talent of those that you talking about Gavin Brown, Darren Mullane, Peter Dacos, Craig Kelly down back, what a good recruit he was in terms of shoring up our defence with Michael Christian. Shane Ward was a star.
Yeah, I was going to say Ward, yeah.
The two boys that come from Adelaide, Scott Russell and Tony Francis. And Craig Starcevich, his work rate in front of the footy, which created vacuum of space for BT, even though he missed out on the grand final. We just felt we had the core group of challenging any team. And as you rightfully pointed out, we got to that finals on the back of that stuff, winning games against good opposition at the back end of the year. I think we went through the final series that year with not one team against us. After that drawn final against West Coast, we kept them goalless in their last quarters, which is unheard of when the stakes are high. Generally, you might leak a couple of goals, knowing full well the best are playing the best at the pointy end of the year. But our defensive mantra that year was all about Operation Pressure. To get sustained it long enough, we felt that we could break a lot of opposition teams, particularly Essendon, because they were getting a bit older. They couldn't get across the ground. We couldn't afford to have just a shootout. Their ability versus our ability, it might have been equal or better. If we wanted to work honestly two ways, which we did, I think we had 50-something tackles back then when it was more positional play and not the mass numbers around the contest now. And we probably kept them to about 27 tackles. So on the spread, we certainly got them, and we had blokes in front of the ball that kicked clutch goals, which mattered. Dacos' first two in that grand final got us going. He had a quiet game by his standards, but he kicked goals that mattered at the right time.
Right. You touched on Francis and Russell. That was my next question. So 88, 89, you're in the finals. You don't win a final in either year. Do you see them, as a lot of people do, as the kind of the Jolly in the Ball of 2010 or the Mitchell in the Hill of 2023? Did they kind of just polish us off, make the difference? Or was that overblown?
They certainly. No, I think they certainly added to what we needed. Scotty was a fantastic player. He could run the lines, generally a good decision maker. He bought into team, whereas Tony was more in and under, and he'd work his backside in that 0 to 5 area. He's quite tough and quite resilient. And then I just don't want to discredit others that were really important with that recruitment.
Yeah, of course.
Michael Christian and also Craig Kelly, who were significant players with Craig Starcevich, I felt. Stars was very underrated.
He was a great big game player, I found.
He was.
Yeah, he played really well in the big games.
Graham Wright, one of your own over there, he was one of those guys that added a significant contribution to the team right from the outset. I remember that game he kicked 6 goals. I think it was at Waverley in 88 against Hawthorn. And he sort of dismantled one of my most respected players I've ever come up against in Gary Ayres. But we knew then we were going to have a terrific player going forward.
Well, he was second in the Brownlow in 90, I remember that. I'm just being told we're running short of time because we want to get you away. So just a few other ones I want to touch on. I always enjoyed watching you line up against Greg Williams. Greg Williams, to me, is one of the greatest players ever. And we always went for two strategies. We'd have Tony Shaw sometimes play on him as a lockdown, or I think you played on him to expose his a lack of defence. That's what I think. And you'd run off him and you'd create. And there was that one with a famous seven bounce goal game. You had like 23 possessions. You kicked 3 goals, kept him to 19. How did you see that matchup with him? Is it something you enjoyed?
Yeah, I had a really good record against Diesel. I respected him enormously. He's a great player and a good fella. And a competitive bugger. He'd certainly whack you if he thought, well, you're trying to close down his space illegally. I remember a game up in Sydney, he whacked Tony Shaw, broke his nose just before half time. But to play on him, to learn from my perspective about his cleanliness around stoppage, his ability to buy time and space with ball in hand, but then to find someone in a usable spot to do damage for their team was one of the greatest assets he had. But you had to draw enormous amount of courage out of yourself to shut that down with their hit zones and their codes they use, with Justin Madden getting first hands on the ball generally. And then if it's not Williams, you've got Bradley. If it's not Bradley, it had Ratton. If it wasn't Ratton, it was Fraser Brown, or even then Adrian Gleeson. So they had some Wayne Johnson when I first started. They had some fantastic around the ball players that could win first possession but kickstart their offense by being so clean. And then after it exited the stoppage, if you ball watched, Diesel would put 30 metres on you before you knew it. And more importantly, he got himself into an area of threat quite quickly. So if the ball was kicked to a certain area, he'd find himself in a position where it could be used again in the next chain. So learning as a young boy to play against a player like that, if you wanted to learn by understanding angles and how you exit stoppage, a lot of people walk from stoppage. He immediately got on his bike so he could get into another offensive threat. And what that did, if you wanted to have an counter defender on him, it got the defender into a position where he couldn't attack. So then it come down to how you won that first possession. That was important. Then you can dictate to him because he didn't work as hard defensively as he did offensively. So that was a great learning right from the outset. And these are the things the smart players have to calculate out the game. And I always felt I was a pretty smart game player. And I always understood the nuances of what they were trying to do. So I tried to expose them and not give them their want. I tried to get what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere Monkhurst said you're the best footy brain he's ever come across, Damon Monkhurst. Couple other quick, because we're nearly finishing, because you have to get off. I appreciate that. Tom, your son, I've seen highlights of him, haven't seen a hell of a lot. Now, I was having a debate with my son before. He reminds me a bit of a Sam Mitchell distributor type. Am I way off the mark there? What player would you liken him to? Without putting too much pressure on him, you'd say he plays in this style.
At junior level, with what I've seen and improvement, I reckon he's probably a Zach Merritt type.
Right. Okay.
Really reads the game really well, and his mind's quicker than probably others in the vicinity of either winning it or about to win it. And once he does win it, he certainly calculates what's around him really quickly, a bit like Zach. He'll pull the ball back in a corridor option. If you look at Merritt's first kick on Friday night, or when was it, Wednesday night, when they played Geelong, Thomas, as a young player, even now, he would see the same option that Zach did. Not many would do that. So he's got a good footy IQ when it comes to attacking the game. Not many players have the balls to actually bring the ball back through the corridor, which opens up your front half and gives them an enormous opportunity to put pressure on defences. Some players play safe because they haven't got the decision making, or they don't understand the awareness, or don't understand the pattern running of players where they should be based on where the ball's got to. And I've spent a lot of time with him as a young boy to give him that education, and more importantly, he's starting to absorb that information that's coming out on game day. So it's been hammered into him as a young boy. He's always wanted to look to improve. He's always sat down and said, Dad, can we look at Collingwood's game? And I'd sort of say, well, okay, here's a stoppage in this part of the ground. Ball goes up in the air, I'd freeze it on the HQ, and I'd say, well, okay, you tell me what Pendle should do now, or what do you think he will do? And then watch Pendlebury win the ball or exit. Then I'd frame it as he got possession. What option are you looking for? If you're Pendles, and he'd say I'd go there, A, B or C. And I'd say, okay, let's play it out, see what Scotty does. And then all of a sudden, Scotty had hit a target that Tommy had already seen, and that's where the marriage started. And that was a footy IQ that we tried to bank in him as a father and as an understander of the game. And all of a sudden, I think he's now the beneficiary of that father-son education, coach-son education, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Okay, final question for you, Mick. Pies, how do you see them this year? I know you've got concerns over their defence.
Yeah, I think they're one short. Murphy, I love Murphy, what he stood for. Played full, play small, tough, courageous. They're trying Reef McInnes in that role. I think what they'll do, they'll work out Reef that he can't get up and back. And that's the reason why they recruit him as a midfielder, but when they identified he's not the runner they thought he would become, that's the reason why he went to the front half, to be that powerful, explosive player that he is. Can't last the journey to play like that in the midfield. So they've tried to manufacture a role for him. And I hope it works, because I've watched him over the summer train, and he's really worked hard on his defensive traits, his defensive power, his accountability. But I think as soon as opposition sort of work him out, can he get high up the ground, can he charge back in, as opposed to being probably the deepest defender to lock down on the most deepest dangerous forward for the opposition. I think they'll try to play the max and wax type of game, get what they want, and try to expose Collingwood and try to expose him. Or give you a bit of rope. Maynard, love him. I think Quaino's going to have a better year. The recruitment of Perryman and Houston's going to add merit to that back half if they need it. I don't think Houston shouldn't be played in the middle field. 3 years ago, Port Adelaide tried him there. He just can't get out of stoppage. He sees the game particularly well, and I think what Collingwood needed was another terrific ball user. Josh Dacos played there the other night, which was great to see. If they can get Houston and Dacos behind the ball to kickstart their offence, because they do rebound really well and they score from the back half really well. Those two boys know how to kick the footy, and I think that'll help them serve them well.
Right. Okay, we're going to let you go, Mick, because we know you've got other commitments. We really appreciate your time. And hopefully we might be able to get you back on if the Pies do make the finals, maybe in the back end of the year, if you'd be open to that.
Yeah, no worries.
No, that's
Yeah, no
fantastic.
worries, Michael. I love talking footy, and to answer your question, I think Collingwood can win the flag. They just need to stay healthy. Elliott, DeGoey, Maynard. These types of boys are really important to them. Nick's a Brownlow medalist in waiting. We know that. Cameron's going to sign, which is great news. Bit of stability there. The memory recruitment with the vacuum of space he creates is going to help the other two, Myercheck and McStay. No, Myercheck and McStay didn't play at all together last year. I think those three in tandem are going to add to a pretty diverse forward line and dynamic forward line at that. And I think the way they play, they can hit the scoreboard quite regularly. Be hard to beat this year.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks again for your time, Mick. And hopefully talking to you
No worries, Michael.
later on the year. Okay.
All right. How good was that? How good was that interview? Well done, Mick. You should be very proud of your interviewing skills. There was
I've only ever wanted your approval, Dermot. That's all I've ever craved.
now that the listeners have heard that, we can talk about that little start, Mick. That was a rocky start, wasn't it?
Well, I appreciated Mick's offer to start again, but I didn't really care.
He called you an idiot.
Yeah, it didn't worry me.
I don't disagree with him.
That's what it said on Wikipedia. Get on Wikipedia, have a look at it. It says he coached the under 18s, the reserves, and the seniors all to premierships.
Yes.
And it's just not true. So there you go. I can't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. But interesting about his son as well, because
watching the Pendlebury highlights and stopping it, and that was interesting.
And likening him to Zach Merritt. I've only seen a little bit of him, as I said on the interview, but he kind of reminded me a little bit of Sam Mitchell type. I see a bit of Sam Mitchell in him as well, the distributor.
I think he's a lot quicker than what Sam Mitchell was. But
yeah.
Footy IQ, could be up there with Sam Mitchell. I love that it's like Peter Dacos with Josh and Nick having that sort of like your father being that great and have that sort of knowledge and it's just like at an early age just teaching you from the side. Like that's gonna. I'm excited. I'm just so excited to see what Tom can do alongside the Dacos boys for the next few years. It's going to be unreal. But
Dermot had that growing up, but he didn't take advantage of it.
Yes. But yeah, once again, thank you so much. If you're listening, Mick McGuANE, I'm not sure if you would be, but if you are, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can get him again.
I think I mentioned on the podcast, I invited him back. If we were to make finals, maybe late in the year, come back, talk just exclusively about the Pies and how the year's gone, how he thinks they might go in the finals.
I think we're making connections now, Mick. So we've got Leon, who said that he'd be happy to come back. Got Mick, who will be happy to come back. We've got Kingy and Bucks and all these guys coming up, a couple of others as well. If we have that, start getting these good relations, we might be able to get them on.
I've never been able to maintain good relations, though. That's the only thing.
All right. Anyway, it's time for Who Am I? All right. Who am I? Who am I? So at the moment, you've had your 2 games. I've had 1. I'm still winning despite you playing 1 more game than me. I'm 2 points to 0. So today, you've got a Who Am I to chuck at me and see if I can extend my lead on you. Now, what are you going to complain about this week? Every week you complain about this.
You know that's not how I roll. That's not my bag to complain. But I am submitting a formal complaint this week on last week's Who Am I? Okay. No, I'm not comfortable with it, but I feel it has to be brought out of the darkness into the light. You said on your second clue, and this is a quote, I took some time to develop.
Yep.
Okay. There's no way I'm getting Cameron Cloke from that clue.
That wasn't the whole clue.
No, but the fact you said that, I took some time to develop, leads me to believe that the player in question ended up developing. Cameron Cloke never developed.
Developed in the VFL until he got his chance in the AFL.
He never developed, and that's a very subjective comment. I took some time to develop. We want facts. Every point needs to be a fact. He did this. Okay? Don't leave your personal opinions out of it. Okay? He didn't develop. That's why he didn't spend much time at the club. So I want
G'day to Cameron Cloak if you're
Oh, yeah,
listening,
one of
mate.
the best, Cam. I want to put a line through last week's Who Am I?
No,
Won't
no, you
count.
want to put a line through everyone that you don't get. But
I've been.
you wanted to put a line. You wanted to put a line through Ben Hudson. You wanted to claim
some-
Matthew Lockham when you weren't even on the show.
with some legitimacy. Every week I've been.
You're a
ripped
sore
off. But
loser.
Anyway,
You know, despite all this, you're only 2 points behind in what is a long season. So toughen up a little bit, princess.
who am I?
All right, let's go.
For 5 points.
Oh.
I was recruited from Xavier College in 1995, and I'll give you a couple extra clues in that. Xavier College is in Victoria.
Yes, I know where
isn't it?
Xavier College.
Oh, you do, do you?
Dan Hanbury went there.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Was it Xavier College? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So that's the first clue. Recruited from Xavier College in 1995, and I'll add to it a little bit. It says he only played schoolboy football, so I'm not sure back in those days whether he didn't come through the draft. But anyway,
Oh, I'm not going to get this. So at least I know he's Victorian. 1995. 1995. That would have been around about the Scotty Burns era, but he was South Australian. Yeah, move on.
making my debut later that year, I played primarily as a key position player, and I'll be nice to him. He wasn't a ruckman; he was a backman. Okay, key position back.
So hold on, he debuted in 95
He debuted
or
in-
96.
No, he debuted in 95.
But he was in the 95 draft. Wouldn't that mean
Oh,
his
no,
first season
we-
was 96?
We
Oh, where you want facts? Where you want facts?
hold on. Was this, oh, you can say there. Just let me check something. Sorry. Sorry.
To our listeners, I'm sorry, Mike was scrambling to.
No, I've almost got there.
Yeah, he's almost this. This is bad. So I'll just try. So key position around about that time. I'm not gonna.
Well, this one says 94.
94. So not
Hold
even
on.
95 or 96.
Oh, no, hold on.
Oh, for
No,
fuck.
he debuted in 95.
But he was in the 94 draft.
It must have been. I read from somewhere else. I think he wrote this on his LinkedIn account. This guy that it was 96. I think he's wrong.
This is like the Mick McGuane
came-
interview all
okay.
over again. Can you get your facts right?
Let's start again.
No.
So he's recruited from Xavier College, probably 94, not 95.
Probably. Now we're talking probably.
No, hold on. He made his debut later in the next year in 95.
Key position player. He may have not even been drafted to Collingwood yet because he never said he was at
Key
Collingwood.
position back. Made his debut in 95. Not that difficult to find.
I have a player. No, I think he was South Australian. I was thinking Shane Wakeland, but he's South Australian. It could be.
And Shane Wakeman came from St Kilda.
Yeah, but you hadn't said that where he's drafted yet, so I'm taking it as he was drafted to Collingwood because you haven't actually said.
Yeah,
where.
he's recruited from. He's recruited to Collingwood.
Well, you didn't say that.
Oh, let's
so-
start again.
No. You are so bad at
He was
this.
recruited to Collingwood from Xavier College.
How the fuck have you managed this?
In 94, 95, depends on where you.
Can we move on? Go to question 3.
He made his debut later
Is
in
this
95.
is this 3 points?
He played as a key back.
No.
So that was for 4 points.
I'm not going to get go.
Moving
3.
on. Okay. He was appointed deputy vice captain in 99
To Collingwood.
at Collingwood. So he's at the Pies. He's deputy vice captain in 99.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I should be able to get this, but so straight away I thought of Jared Malloy, but he obviously wasn't drafted to Collingwood because I know he was in a leadership sort of group around that time. Yeah, shit, this is gonna kill. A key position back.
He was a key position back.
Key position back.
Yep.
No, fuck's sake. Go for 2 points.
2 points. Traded to my second club in 2000 after having played 79 games at the Pies. So after 79 games, he was traded to his second club in 2000.
Oh, see, I'm thinking Mel Michael, but he wasn't around in 94. There's no way. Second club. He was traded to his second. No, I'm not going to get this. This is very upsetting. Traded to his second club, 94. He was a vice captain in 99, then traded to his second club in.
Yeah, so he made his debut in 95. He was deputy vice captain in 99. We traded him to another club in 2000.
Nah, not going to get it. Let's just. Okay, next one is the easiest.
One question.
So now I'm just going to have to take a shot of.
He won the Bob Skilton Medal in 2000.
The Bob Skilton medal. So that should give you a clue.
So you went to Sydney
Yeah, that's the only team that awards the Bob Skilton medal, yes.
as a key defender.
Key defender.
What?
Yep, key defender.
Because all I'm thinking is Paul Williams, and he's not a
No.
key defender.
Nah.
In 2000. I can't even take a stab because I don't know who the fuck it is.
2000.
2000.
It surprised me he had been deputy vice captain. I don't think I was aware of that at the
And he
time.
won
He won their best and fairest in his first year there
in 2000.
in 2000.
He won the best and fairest.
He won the
and
best
he
and
played for
fairest.
Collingwood and he's a vice captain in 99.
Yeah, well, Bob Skilton medal was
Yeah, that's best and fairest.
Yeah,
He's a vice captain in 1999.
yeah.
He was a key back. He went to Sydney and won the best and fairest in the first year, and I can't fucking remember who this guy is.
You got to kick yourself, of course.
I need to take a guess because I got no.
And the clues were so good too.
I can't even guess. I can't even throw a name out. I'm out. I can't guess. Okay.
I reckon you have to lose points if you can't even guess from your tally.
Sydney, hold on.
I reckon from your tally of 2, you need to lose 1.
Hold on.
That's
Sydney Swans key back. All the listeners out there,
How
comment
much
on this afterwards and be honest if you got this.
How much time do you want?
Okay, no, I'm out. Go on.
Andrew Shawball.
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know Andrew Shawball?
Who the fuck is that? Andrew Shawbush. Show me a picture of
What
it.
do you mean you don't know who Andrew Shawball is?
There's no pic-
Andrew Shawball. That's Andrew Shawball.
I would have
You
reckoned.
don't know who he is.
How many? What years were it? Well, okay.
He played 79 games in the late 90s.
Yeah, okay. In all
And
fairness,
he played 88
So-
games to 2005 with Sydney. He was still playing at 2005.
can I just say,
Andrew Shawball.
yeah, but 94 he debuted. That was the year I was born.
No, he debuted 95.
Years 1994 to
I bet
19.
he came to the club in 94, debuted 95.
Yeah, okay. So debut. So I was 1 at the time. He left. I was about 5. He wasn't a regular.
So this is going to be limited to players in the last 15
No,
years,
that's.
Last
I
25.
honestly, I
You
was.
don't remember Andrew Shawball? He had something to do with your primary school. You're growing up. You might have had a brother who went there or something
Did?
because he was at some of the school functions. I saw him.
Well, you know who did have something to do with my school, and I mentioned it before. It was Jared Malloy. Jared Malloy went to my
Yeah.
primary school, and he came once for like a footy clinic, and
There you go. But there you go, Andrew Shawball. But there was a lot. It got me thinking. In the late 90s, very early 2000s, a lot of guys were coming back and forth between Collingwood and Sydney. I wrote down. You had Lucuria, you had Williams, you had Rocker, you had Orchard, Clinton King. Some people might remember.
I remember Clinton King. See, I remember him
Mark Kinnear, and another guy who I don't remember is Stuart Manglin.
and Nick Davis a little bit after that.
Oh, Nick Davis, but yeah, he's a little bit after that.
Oh,
yeah.
too- he
Oh,
left-
Not too much. But
No, because his last game was the
Two-
02 grand final.
Grand final, yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth between the clubs in that period.
Mm.
I'm surprised you don't know Andrew Shawball.
I honestly, I do. I have heard the name, but I
Well,
don't know.
Well, how are you going to go with guys from the 70s? Because there was a guy I was going to,
Nah.
I was going to do from the 70s and 80s, but I thought I was going to make them easier questions. But
I think I do. I do know my history. I know a lot of them.
well,
but I don't know him.
that suggests otherwise. That segment.
Oh well, I'm still 2 points up. Should I be complaining next week about who am I? You got the questions wrong, the years wrong. You picked someone I don't even know. No, I'll just cop it like a man. Rightio. So, go on. You want to say something?
I want to touch on the macabre again. We got a lot of great feedback from my new topic. Let's touch on the macabre. That's the name of it. The Beaumont kids have been in the news this week,
Mike,
because there's been. Well, you know when you talk about this?
well, we don't have time for I Got Vomit, so we don't have time for this.
Okay.
But what we are,
I wrote in my parade.
go on. I'll give you 30 seconds. Go.
I just found it
30
odd.
seconds.
So there's this investigator who was behind the dig this week. Unfortunately, they didn't find
They
the
did it
name,
because I saw.
which is very sad. Would have been nice to give him respectful burial. But anyway, so this investigator said, "I've got this big reveal." So, sources come to me, and I've got this huge reveal which ties the suspect Harry Phipps
10 seconds.
to the Beaumont kids.
10
Okay.
seconds. Go.
And then after a couple of days, he revealed this big reveal. What it was, Harry Phipps's niece married Jim Beaumont, the father's cousin.
All right, quick, hurry up. We're done.
So how is that a big reveal? Like I looked at the population of Adelaide in '66, and it was 727,000 people. The degrees of separation would have been 1 or 2. That is not a big reveal. Nonsense.
Why have you actually written notes about this? You do realize we do a Collingwood podcast.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to write the 727 because people were interested.
Cool. All right. Anyway, before we go, give us a tip. Who's going to win opening round and how much? Because it's the two teams that we've tipped to make the grand final.
Okay, rightio.
Come on, they don't have Tom Green, but we might not have the goalie. Would that even it out a bit?
This game last year, I said GWS because it was their home ground. They're a good side. As long as we went well.
It's still the case. It's their home ground. They're a good side.
I've got a feeling they will beat them.
That will beat them.
Collingwood Pies to win. Couple of goals. 15 points.
Yeah, Pies by 22, I reckon. I'm confident. I'm actually confident. Even though I've tipped GWS to finish top of the ladder, I'm quietly confident. All right, so that's the end. That was a big podcast, a long one, but we wanted to pump out something like that for our last preseason episode. We'll be back to our regular episodes, weekly episodes, as of next week. So all our favourite segments are back. I've got Vomit. We'll make a return after 1 week off, but we'll get Blast from the Past. That's going to be back, and it's going to be done a little bit differently this year, Michael. I'll tell you about that later.
And the new one, let's touch on the macabre. That's the new one.
We're also, guess what else is back? The Julian Rowe medal. It's back, baby. So for people to...
there's tweaks to it as well.
Little tweaks, but...
Because I heavily criticised the
Julian Rowe medal. It was to keep him happy.
Voting system
stick up his wine in.
It was ridiculous.
It wasn't ridiculous. I'm sick of your wine.
Well, you've changed it, so that indicates you agree.
Because you're annoying. I changed it because you're annoying. But they're back. Those two segments are back. And we're going to go back to, we're going to try and keep it at an hour, Mick. We've gone longer this preseason because there's more to talk about in the preseason, but we're going to try and keep it to an hour, maybe an hour 10 at the very longest. But we do get a bit carried away sometimes, especially when you dribble shit that has nothing to do with Collingwood.
Touching the macabre.
But so I'm looking forward to that. And we might not be so happy. We've been too happy this preseason. You're going to see probably angry Dermot come back. For the people that listened to us last year,
Was it the North Melbourne guy?
It was
but I always called the authorities. The neighbours did.
But the live reaction shows, they're ripping in the past. We're scrapping them this year. It was too stressful. So when we play a Sunday game or something like that, instead of me being at your house, because I don't like being on a Sunday late, we'll do an episode on a Monday or Tuesday via Zoom now. So we're going to scrap the live reaction shows, so you won't see that much passion anymore. But if we have a bad loss, I'm still going to come in grumpy. So you got that to look forward to. All right, Mick, any final words?
No.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.